Paul's next thought in verse 24 is the center, it's the focus of his entire theology. It is that this righteousness that comes from God comes freely to the one who receives it. Freely. And yet, there is a cost. But we don't pay it. Messiah paid that cost through his act, his deed of permitting himself to be a sacrifice and a curse in our stead. I think it's important in Seed of Abraham Torah class to always realize this amazing reality. That although we obey God by doing the biblical feasts, eating biblically kosher, observing the Sabbath, none of this is our righteousness. None of it. Christ is the vehicle of our righteousness, and then God, the Father, freely gives us that righteousness through him. Christ is the agent of that righteousness. But I would also like to embrace something that is going to gain more and more importance as the years go by. The release of the findings of the Dead Sea Scrolls shows the close connection between the theology of the New Testament and the theology of the Essenes, who developed their theology from a careful study of the Holy Scriptures, the Tanakh, the Old Testament. So we're going to close today with a short reading from the Dead Sea Scrolls, from what is called the Community Document, scroll number 1QS. It's beautiful, it's poignant, and it is the truth that we all need to hear. So listen closely, please. For to God belongs my righteousness, and the perfection of my way, and the uprightness of my heart is in his hand. By his righteousness are my rebellions blotted out. For God's truth is the rock of my steps, and his power is the stay of my right hand, and from the fount of his righteousness comes my righteousness. The fountain of righteousness, the reservoir of power, the dwelling place of glory are denied to the assembly of flesh. But God has given those things as an everlasting possession to those whom he has chosen. For is a man the master of his way? No, mankind cannot establish their steps, for their righteousness belongs to God. From his hand comes perfection of the way. And if I stagger, God's mercies are my salvation forever. And if I stumble because of the sin of the flesh, my righteousness is in the righteousness of God, which exists forever. He has caused me to approach by his mercy, and by his favors, he will bring my righteousness. He has righteoused me by his true justice, and by his immense goodness, he will pardon my iniquities. Right there is a wonderful way to express the gospel. The Essenes seemed to have it absolutely figured out. Everything except that Yeshua was Messiah. Everything except that trust in him is how they had to obtain this righteousness from God that they knew they had to have. We'll finish up chapter 3 next week, get into chapter 4.